All right, everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. And I'm here to talk a little bit more about some likely, or at least I would say hopefully, impending Seattle Seahawks news. Now, I've talked about this previously this offseason. It's been a relatively hot topic among anybody who talks about the Seahawks. But I wanted to go ahead and kind of advance the plot lines because we got some new information yesterday, courtesy of two of the best Seahawks beat reporters out there. One, Dan Viennes, and the other, Corbin Smith. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things they went over yesterday. They were on a video for, I believe it was Sleeper Seahawks. Yeah, Sleeper Seahawks. And I want to talk a little bit about the things they went over. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So basically, right now, when you're thinking about the Seattle Seahawks, other than the fact that the season is going to start pretty soon here, you're thinking about, I would say, more than anything else, at the very least, if you're me, and I know that everybody thinks about their own things, but I think that the two most notable storylines with this team right now are Leonard Williams and Devin Witherspoon. And that is what Dan Viennes and Corbin Smith talked about on their little dual show yesterday on Sleeper Seahawks. And they said some things that caught my attention because this has been a topic that we have gone over, but this was the most, I would say, encouraging news that I have heard so far from the perspective of somebody that wants these guys to be Seahawks as long as possible. So, let's talk a little bit about what they went over. If you haven't already, you can go watch their video over at the Sleeper Seahawks YouTube channel. And basically, Leonard Williams, Devin Witherspoon, two players that are up for extension but have not been extended yet. Now, let me be very clear about something here. I think we as Seahawks fans got the wrong idea when this team extended Jackson Smith and Jigba so early in the offseason. Usually this Seahawks team waits until late July to early August to extend players who need to get extended. They extend these players during training camp. That's been their modus operandi previously, and it probably still is. JSN was an exception to the rule, and it probably got some people a little too amped up about what they thought would come next. So understand that the JSN thing, we wanted to get him signed before Puka signed, and we wanted to make sure that we took care of that because of the great season he had. JSN was so incredibly good last year that there was not really anything to think about. There wasn't any hope of trying to meet him in the middle. There was no middle with JSN. He was too good last year, and quite frankly, he was really good the previous year too. So it was just a matter of let's just get the contract inked, and let's just not have to think about it anymore. Not the case with these guys. So you've got Devin Witherspoon, you've got Leonard Williams, according to Corbin Smith. And remember, Corbin Smith is the guy who should know these things pretty well because he's got insiders. He has people he talks to who know things. Both of those players have a pretty good chance of getting their extensions in July. Sometime during that first week of training camp, which starts next week, he believes that Spoon and Big Cat are getting extended. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. And to me, there is nothing going on with this team roster-wise more important than getting those two guys locked up. Because I look at this team right now, which is clearly in a Super Bowl window. Regardless of whether or not you believe they're the best team in the league, they are in their window right now. And that window doesn't stay open forever. And you look at the roster on both sides. You've got a bunch of players who have proven themselves to be good that we know for a fact are going to be here for at least a couple more years. You've got guys like, for instance, JSN. You've got basically a whole receiver core except for Cooper Kupp locked in. You've got 3/5 of the offensive line, the good parts of the offensive line, guaranteed to at least be here for a couple years. And Byron Murphy, Nicky Manwari, you get what I'm saying. The really good players that are locked up for at least a couple years. And if you add Devin Witherspoon and Leonard Williams to that, you have a very high percentage of your really good pieces secure on the roster. And that is a very envious position to be in. And it's the position that I want to be in. I want to be able to look at this roster in a couple of months and say that not only are we set up to do well this year, but we're also set up to do well next year. 3 years, once you get out that far, you have no idea what's going to happen at that point. So that stuff, I'm not even talking about that. I'm not tripping on that. You can't really plan 3 years in the future in the NFL most of the time, but I want to have as many players as possible secure on the roster when we know these guys are important parts of the team. Just like you did with the tackles, just like you did with JSN, to a certain extent, guys like Shaheed and Job, who aren't great players, but are net positive players. Derek Hall's now part of that group as well. I want to get this done. I don't want to mess around and trade good players for picks when I know the Super Bowl window is open. So if those two contracts get done, and there's definitely stuff to talk about with those two contracts, because unlike JSN, there is some room for discussion with Witherspoon and Big Cat. But lock those two guys up, and you know you're going to have their services for the foreseeable future. In the case of Witherspoon, probably like 5 years. In the case of Williams, maybe more like maybe like 2 years, but that's still more than enough. That definitely changes the way I perceive this team. And according to Corbin, likely to happen sometime in the next 2 weeks. Now, part of that is if we get to, say, the start of the preseason and neither guy or one of the two guys is not extended, that will invite some conversations over whether or not there's a problem. Maybe things aren't going to get done, but for the time being, until we get to that point, we can be encouraged by the fact that things are moving. Now, like I said, there is stuff you can discuss, like just for instance, Devin Witherspoon. I believe Devin Witherspoon is going to and very reasonably should be the new highest paid corner in football, even if he's not the best corner in football. And I don't necessarily believe that he is, but he could be, and he's close, and it's his turn. And that's how this works. It's your turn to get paid, you get paid. So I have no issue with Devin Witherspoon setting the market. Let me start there. Trent McDuffie has the current market setter, by the way, 4 years, 124 million, and basically effectively 100 million guaranteed. And think about it like this. And I know that this is not the healthiest way to think about things. If this extension gets done now with new ownership already in place in the form of Kashla, that will be a tremendous vote of confidence that he is not going to be an obstacle to this team winning going forward. If he gives Devin Witherspoon, let's say he gives him the same contract, 4 years, 124 million, with even close to 100 million guaranteed, call it, let's say it's a little bit less because his circumstances are a little bit different. let's say that it's like 90 or 85 million guaranteed. That would make us feel a lot better about Koshla and his willingness to spend a lot of money, because remember, the guaranteed money goes into escrow when you sign a player to a big contract. That would be an indicator that he is ready to go to the mattresses to build a good team. So think about it like that. Even if you're not over the moon about giving Witherspoon market setting money at cornerback, think about it like that. If it happens, you know that Koshla is at the very least willing to dump some serious money into this team. And he's willing to do it immediately. Now, Leonard Williams, I would hope he doesn't set the market because he's an older player, right? There is some stuff to discuss there. Is he the best interior defensive lineman in football? I mean, ESPN, their ranking list had him at number 1. I don't know if I really think he's number 1. I don't think he's better than Jeffrey Simmons, and Jeffrey Simmons is younger. There's a little bit more going on there, so I don't think Leonard Williams will set the market here. I think you're looking at something like a 2-year extension with maybe 55 million in it. Hopefully it's closer to 50, might push closer to 60. It's going to be somewhere between those two numbers, 50 and 60, I think, for a 2-year extension on top of the 1 year he has left. And if with that contract extension, there is an understanding and implication that Williams will play this year and next year at the minimum, and then we'll see where things are, then that's vital to this team having a real shot at keeping this window open for another couple years, because we don't have the mechanisms by which to replace Leonard Williams. You can say whatever you want to say about Riley Mills. Riley Mills is not Big Cat. Riley Mills is not Leonard Williams, and we're a long way away from that. So I don't think he'll set the market, but this contract did not help. I'll put it to you that way. But again, that extension is going to come with significant guarantees. Like the Leonard Williams extension, because of the circumstances, could have like 50 million guaranteed. So if the new owners swing into town and the first thing they do is give Devin Witherspoon 90 million guaranteed and Big Cat 50 million guaranteed, whether or not you're enamored with the deals themselves, at the very least, you don't have to worry about this new ownership being willing to throw money around. And I think that's worth something. All right, so good news here in my mind. I know that some people aren't enthused about giving these guys a lot of money, but Devin Witherspoon, Leonard Williams, this defense does not work the way that it does without them. You lose a lot without those two guys. You cannot, especially with the season about to start. And I understand that Leonard Williams, there's no fear there, and I understand that Witherspoon's not going to hold out or anything like that. I know we have those guys for 2026 at least, but if you can keep those guys around longer, you're much better off for it. So let's hope this gets done. If it doesn't get done in the next 2 weeks, then people are going to start scratching their head a little bit. Hopefully, maybe we can come to a little bit of an understanding there. Maybe Witherspoon can be convinced to take a very slight, less than market value contract just because he has 2 years left on his deal. Maybe that'll get him to negotiate something a little bit more friendly. Maybe Big Cat won't worry about getting huge money because he's already made a lot of money in the NFL because he's a veteran. Maybe it can be a little bit more agreeable, but even if it's not, I don't think these guys are replaceable. So I'm trying to win these next few years. So let's get what we need to get in order to win. All right. Let me know what you guys think. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff coming soon.